This is Living Healthy with the Woman in You, the show with the information on health that you need to know from people you can trust.
Hi, welcome to Living Healthy. I'm your host, Sheryl Turgeon. Every parent hopes that their children are healthy in every way, but they don't always know how to ensure that they're healthy. Today's show is called Creating Healthy Children, and joining us is author and lecturer Karen Ranzi of superhealthychildren.com. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me, Sheryl.
It's a pleasure. Karen's book, Creating Healthy Children, is full of empowering health information, and for the past 15 years, she's been on a mission to provide families and educators with this information to help transform the health of children everywhere. Well, we're so happy to be talking with you tonight.
Yeah, this is exciting.
Yeah. So, Karen, what aspects of a healthy lifestyle contribute to a child's mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being?
Well, in my book, Creating Healthy Children, I talk a lot about what's called attachment parenting. Mm-hmm. Attachment parenting means following the needs of the child instead of the child always having to follow the needs of the adult. So in other words, when a child comes into the world, one of the most important things that parents should be thinking about after the mother births the baby is holding the baby against the mother's skin. Mm-hmm. And this is called skin-to-skin contact. Mm-hmm. There's been a tremendous amount of research on skin-to-skin contact in the last decade, and what they're finding is that when children have this increased touch, this increased skin-to-skin with the most important person in their life, the mother, that it improves the emotional trust and the bonding. And also long-term studies have found that these children later on who have this increased skin contact, that they also have increased intelligence scores.
Very interesting.
So that's part of attachment parenting. And this attachment parenting is also healthy for the child. We're talking about all aspects of the child, the nutrition, and all aspects of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So attachment parenting brings in the other aspects.
Okay, and as they get older, does that play out in a different way?
Well, touch, we know, is always important at any age, and so really being present for your children, looking the child in the eyes, making eye contact, and being available for the child. And, you know, I always recommend to mothers making your children your priority in your life, and even if possible, being entrepreneurial, especially for those early years, and trying to work through home so that you can be with your children if at all possible. Mm-hmm. So yes, attachment parenting plays out all through the growing years. You know, we know that breastfeeding, that's another aspect of attachment parenting.
Sure.
You know, this is vital for our children. Human milk is meant for the human baby. Mm-hmm. And that's what women's breasts were meant to do. They're beautiful, and they were meant to nurse their children. So that's another aspect of attachment parenting. And breastfeeding is meant for the human baby. Mm-hmm. Mother's milk is meant for the human baby, just like cow milk is meant for a calf. It's meant for a calf to grow into a very large animal.
So obviously it's not particularly meant for the human baby.
That's right. It's way higher in protein.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. A calf is meant to drink the milk of its mother. It's meant to grow into that 2,000-pound cow. And so the protein molecule is about 24 times larger than that of a human being. And so it makes it very clear that the milk of a human goes to the human baby. It's meant to conserve energy for brain and body development.
How did you discover that a diet of fresh, unprocessed foods contributes to healthy pregnancies and healthy children?
Well, I was born to a vegetarian father and a mother who ate the standard American foods. I was raised on the standard American foods because my mother didn't think that we could get enough protein eating all this rabbit food.
Mm-hmm.
And she just didn't believe that a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle could bring us health. And so she refused to do it. So I grew up on the so-called normal childhood illnesses, which are not normal. I can tell you that. They are not normal because many children who eat healthfully today, who live focused on a diet and lifestyle loaded with fruits and vegetables and things like sprouts and some nuts and seeds, these children don't have the so-called normal childhood illnesses that I had. But I came back to it later on in life because my father and my grandmother taught me something very different. In the early 1920s, my grandmother had been very ill with asthma and emphysema. And through some suggestions from a relative, she was able to go to a vegetarian diet to a vegan diet without any animal products and move to a diet that was very high in fresh plant nutrition. And the doctors at that time, in the early 1920s, it was around 1922, they told her that she only had a few months to live after they had given her a couple of rounds of penicillin. And she didn't want to die. And she was willing to find ways, she was willing to do anything to keep herself alive. And so when she had gotten this message from a relative, she followed through and she changed her lifestyle and she moved to this diet high in plant nutrition. And she lived another 50 years.
Did she?
Good quality of life. And that's how I got to it. Even though I was a very sickly child growing up on the standard American foods, I later learned through my own child being sick that I needed to change my diet and my children's diets if I wanted to see health in them. And many people come to me now. Many families call me and email me and come and consult with me because their children are sick and they are living a standard American lifestyle.
And when the children are sick, do you correlate specific illnesses with diet? Are there some illnesses that you can tell me about?
I think most illnesses can be related back to diet because I truly do believe that we are what we eat. And whatever is hampering our digestive system creates havoc all over the body. And in fact, there's a very strong connection between the gut and the brain. It's called the gut-brain barrier. And so we need to understand that even the neurological disorders can be caused by bad nutrition, what the mother ate during pregnancy, what the children are eating. And we have seen children recover from attention deficit disorder, from autism, through dietary changes. Sometimes there's other avenues that need to be explored also. You know, such as heavy metal detoxification. Sometimes there are additional things that need to be done to make improvement, but diet is a huge, huge part of it.
So I'm interested in hearing what happened in your own family that changed your diet, and how did your diet change?
Okay. My son had very severe asthma, chronic ear infections, pulling his ears in pain every single day, pretty much for the first 3 years of life. And he had multiple food allergies. He was allergic to many pollens, animal hairs, so many foods. It was very difficult to even know what to give him to eat. And I thought that we were already eating healthfully. We were vegetarian. But as you know, you could be vegetarian or vegan eating French fries and potato chips all day, you know? So, you know, you don't need to be eating healthily, and you could be a sick vegetarian or vegan. And it wasn't until I realized that this diet that we had that had a lot of processed food in it, and I had always loved pasta and bread. I lived frequently on pasta and bread, that it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy to my digestive system, and it was going into my milk and affecting my child. And living on a diet that wasn't nutrient dense was causing his problems. So what I learned was I needed to get nutrient dense foods into our family diet. And I also, after 3 years of trying everything else, from antibiotics to all kinds of alternative therapies with nothing helping my poor child, that's when I realized that what my grandmother did, I started thinking that it made sense. And I started looking for people who were following a diet focusing on plant nutrition. And that's when I started to transition my children and myself. And my son healed in about 11 months, eating fruit and vegetables and green juices and nuts and seeds. And we learned how to make all kinds of creative recipes. And now I teach a class called Raw Food Fun for Kids, where I bring families together. We make healthy meals together with recipes that have no more than 3 to 4 ingredients. And that way the children learn how to make these recipes at home and create them and give them to their parents to eat.
Oh, terrific.
So it gets the children involved. So that's one of the focuses of the class.
Is that how you interest the children in eating the healthy foods?
Yes, because a lot of children are indoctrinated by all of the processed and refined junk foods that they see on TV. And they think that that's what we're supposed to eat. And that's what their friends are eating, so they feel that it's normal. And what I'm trying to show them is that the fresh plant foods are what they should be getting into their diet, and that they can love them. And so I bring the families together, and the families are a support system for each other so that the children are seeing other children eating healthfully.
Wonderful.
And they start to get motivated. I've had families come who the children didn't eat any fruits or vegetables at all. Some of the children had no interest in it and had an aversion to green leafy vegetables. And the greens are so important for their minerals, for their calcium, for their magnesium. And we've got to find ways to get those into the diet. So I've created lots of fun recipes and fun experiences for the children, lots of games around it.
Excellent.
So,
and what do you do in terms of, you know, the common problem of kids being in school wanting to eat what they see other kids eating?
Okay, that happens frequently. And I know that when my children were younger, I went, you know, when they were in school, I went to the cafeteria people and I said, you know, I'd like to see a salad bar. I'd like to get rid of that candy vending machine or replace it with healthier snacks. I'd like to see some fruits and vegetables out there. And they told me it was too expensive. And I say, the food that you're giving has no nutrients, so that's what's costing money.
Right.
You know, by getting the fruits and vegetables, first of all, there are ways to get fruits and vegetables very cost effectively. And there are farmers out there, local farmers, who sell produce, and they sell big bags of produce where, like, you know, you're getting a lettuce that's like the size of 3 lettuces in one. And that's how I shop. I participate in what's called community-supported agriculture, where the farmer I go to, We buy from him, we give him money at the beginning of the season, and that helps him to buy his seeds. And then we get food the entire season. And he has greenhouses that he grows his food in all winter. So I'm getting food from him all year.
Wonderful.
And it's very cost effective to do it this way. So there are lots of opportunities in many communities to reach out and look at what's around you, buying food in bulk to get lower prices. But it didn't work at that time, and so what I'm doing is I'm encouraging parents to go to your PTA, to your Parent-Teacher Association in the school, and tell the Parent-Teacher Association that you want to start a wellness committee. The PTA likes committees.
That's great.
So start with that, and then grow numbers. Grow people on your committee who are interested in changing the cafeteria food, so that there are plenty of fruits and vegetables available for the children. And start having a garden. Get the children outside.
Great idea. Yes.
Get them working in the garden. Get them connected to it. That's the best way to make them love fruits and vegetables.
Oh, that's wonderful. In fact, getting the children connected to nature, do you have other suggestions about that and getting them to understand that we're all connected?
Yes. I always looked at nature and the way that animals live, and I brought that to my children. So we would do a lot of hiking and always looking for nature adventure trips. And in being outdoors, we often observed the animals, and we talked about how they lived. And one of the things I did point out to my children was that there's no other animal out in nature that nurses from another animal. And I said, why are human beings taking the milk of another animal? We're the only species that does that. And it didn't make any sense to my children. And so they understood it that way by me pointing that out to them. I also pointed out to them the many large animals that there are out in nature, and that they are all plant vegetarians. The bison, the camel, the cow, the rhino, the bison, they're all plant vegetarians. They eat plants, and they grow beautiful, big, strong bodies. And so can our children. They can get plenty of protein. They can get plenty of vitamins from the fruit, minerals from the green leafy vegetables. And there are ways to do it in fun, creative ways that the kids will eat their fruit and their vegetables.
Terrific. You know, I often hear people say that if you don't eat meat or animal products, then you have to worry about vitamin B12. Are there specific foods that you would have people, you would recommend to people who want to go vegan?
Well, I think there are many people who have problems with B12 these days, and it's not only vegans and vegetarians. I think that even in the general population, we're seeing many people with B12 deficiencies. And it's actually not the meat itself that has the B12 in it. It's the food that the animal eats that contains the bacteria of the plant, of the B12. But because the foods of today are being over-farmed, a lot of the B12 is decreased. And then we overwash all of our produce so that we're rinsing it all off. So it really is a matter of getting your plants from good sources, like as local as possible. So eating locally, and you know, sometimes if you're getting something from a farmer and it's not that dirty, not washing it so that everything is totally purified, and also. I think that, you know, in the winter time when a lot of our food is imported, I think we need to take a B12 supplement. And I'm talking about everybody. And I think the best way to take it is sublingually. They have these like little tablets that dissolve under the tongue. And they're digestible. I think that for Some children, such as autistic children, do better with a B12 shot, and many of them are very severely depleted in B12. So the B12 shots are often very much needed.
Interesting. Yeah. Would you say that it's crucial that children eat organic food?
Yes. Organics are extremely important today. A lot of the conventional produce is highly sprayed, and we are getting way too much pesticides into our systems, and they cause so many problems in the body. And then we wonder where cancers come from.
Right.
You know, if we're eating all of these chemicals, the body can't handle it, and it builds up over the years. You know, and it sometimes takes cancer 10 to 20 years to develop, and it's from all of these chemicals and pesticides that grow inside the human body. It can only tolerate so much.
And how would you advise people that have been eating that way for years to start to clean up their diet? And is it reversible?
It's definitely reversible. The human body is so intelligent. It's amazing. The human body stores all of the chemicals and the animal fats that it can't get rid of. It stores in the cellular tissues. And so as somebody turns to a healthier diet and starts buying organically grown foods that don't have all those pesticides, and starts eating more fruit, fresh fruits and vegetables, sprouts, and especially green leafy vegetables like kale, and the dark lettuces like romaine, and spinach, all these wonderful minerals.
Right.
And also wild edibles, getting outdoors and going into the woods with somebody who knows how to forage for wild greens like dandelion and other wild edibles. Those are super powerful. And the body starts to clear out all of the things that have been stored. Now initially there might be a reaction to that and people get scared, so they go back to eating the foods that were causing the problems to begin with. But what happens is that the body needs a period of time to get out these toxins from the system, and they may circulate for a period until they're released. And
So would
this is
you
a great way to
advise
do
that
it.
people do it more slowly?
I always
that's
think
happening?
doing it more gradually is beneficial. And I think that a lot of times people who get excited and go to like 100% raw food diet overnight sometimes see the repercussions, and that they can't sustain it. Or they will go back and forth. They will go to raw food, then they'll go back to their all cooked food and animal products and processed and refined foods, and then they'll get really impatient and upset with themselves, and they won't feel good, and they'll go back to raw food. Well, I think that's worse.
Yeah.
Because
really
it's like a
playing
shock
havoc,
to the
isn't it?
system. So I think it's better to go more gradually, to start with snacks, and even to start with fruit in the morning for breakfast. Many years ago we had the book Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, and they suggested fruit in the morning. And that was a huge change for our society, to have fruit in the morning. So,
And what sort of snacks would you?
okay, well,
suggest?
definitely in place of candy and cookies and other refined and processed food, kids love fruit. So a beautiful big bowl of colorful organic berries. And we must eat our berries organic. Berries are extremely sprayed with pesticides. That's one of the foods. In my book, Creating Healthy Children, I have a full description of all the foods that are not so harmful to eat as conventional produce. And then I have another list of all the foods that we absolutely must get organic.
Yeah.
And we must know all of those. And berries are part of that.
Okay.
So we must get organic berries. And in the wintertime, people always ask me, well, I can't get organic berries in the wintertime. And I say, well, you can get organic frozen berries to put in your smoothies in the wintertime. So that's a great way to add berries during the winter.
Sure.
You know.
Now, for people that are just starting out, do you have a favorite recipe that you would recommend?
Oh, I have so many favorite recipes. I like to bring people to something that's really, really yummy. And one of the things that I make at my Raw Food Fun for Kids class is I make a raw taco filling. And it's made with soaked almonds. And we soak the almonds to release the enzyme inhibitors because almonds are not very digestible unless we get rid of these enzyme inhibitors. And so we soak them overnight in water, pour the water out the next morning, and then we use the food processor and put about a cup of the soaked almonds into the food processor and about a quarter cup of soaked sun-dried tomatoes in the food processor with the almonds, about a half a cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. If you like onion, a nice big slice of chopped red onion could go in there with that to give it a little kick. And then I put in a teaspoon each of coriander, paprika, and cumin.
Sounds delicious.
Very simple recipe and spiced by these more mild spices.
Yeah.
And process that all up depending on how smooth you want it. That's all choice. I like it very smooth. Some people like it as a chunky kind of a taco filling. But that combination is just absolutely delicious. Makes a great taco taste.
That sounds great.
And then I fill it. The filling, the taco wrap, is either a large romaine lettuce leaf or the leaf of a collard green.
Perfect.
Or the leaf of one of the cabbage leaves. And you roll it up and you put a toothpick through it and it makes a beautiful display for a party or a potluck. And you could put some salsa on top, make it even more creative looking, and it goes really well. And everybody loves it.
Oh, that sounds great. And we do need to wrap things up for now. It's been just such a pleasure having you on the show. And I just want to let people know that for more information, they can visit www.superhealthychildren.com. You can also contact Karen at 201-934-6778 or by email at karen@superhealthychildren.com. You can also find Creating Healthy Children on Facebook. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Sheryl Worthington Turgeon. See you next time on Living Healthy.